Welcome to This Explainer. I'm so pumped you're tuning in today because we're jumping straight into some incredible new research that is going to totally flip how you think about your brain's lifespan. We're looking at a literal mountain of evidence that just shatters the old ideas of brain aging, and we're really zooming in on the actual hard science behind brain training.
So, let me just ask you, when do you think your brain actually peaks? I mean, we've all kind of been conditioned to believe that our mental sharpness peaks in our 20s, right? And then it's just this inevitable, slow downhill slide. It's why we always joke about, having senior moments or forgetting where we left our keys. But is that downward spiral actually a biological fact?
Well, Dr. Lori Cook, she's the director of clinical research over at the Center for Brain Health. She says this gloomy view of aging is just completely wrong. She put it perfectly, saying, the brain isn't defined by the calendar, it is defined by possibility. And she's got the hard data to back that up.
All right, Section 1, the myth of cognitive peak.
Let's tear down this outdated decline-based model, starting with a massive landmark study out of Texas. Researchers actually tracked nearly 4,000 people, and I'm talking a huge age range here, from 19 all the way up to 94. They had them do daily brain training exercises, just short, focused tasks on problem solving and reasoning. And the results? Honestly, they were mind-blowing. They found that the folks in their 70s and 80s experienced cognitive improvements that were literally on par with the youngest adults in the entire study.
So, the big takeaway here, there is absolutely no ceiling when it comes to brain optimization. That whole decline-based model of aging, it's just a massive medical misconception. Even people who already had super high-performing brains when the study started, well, they just kept getting better. The number of candles on your birthday cake doesn't actually matter, because your brain's capacity for growth literally never expires.
Moving right along to Section 2, the science of neuroplasticity.
The real biological hero behind all of this is neuroplasticity. Instead of thinking of your brain as this rigid, fixed machine, like a computer hard drive that just runs out of space, it's incredibly adaptable. It's actually a lot more like a really good, well-loved kitchen knife. Sure, it might get a little dull with everyday use over the years, but it just needs a good sharpening. And that's exactly what cognitive training is. It's the whetstone that lets your brain physically reorganize its structure and function based on new experiences.
Take a look at this comparison. On a microscopic level, you can actually see how a normal neural synapse compares to a potentiated or strengthened synapse. When we do targeted brain training, our synapses physically change. You're seeing increased neurotransmitter release right there, plus the addition of way more receptors on the receiving end. It physically fortifies that connection between your neurons, which leads perfectly into this famous rule from psychologist Donald Hebb back in 1949, cells that fire together, wire together. Basically, repeated coactivation physically rewires your neural circuits. The more you use a specific pathway by learning or practicing something, the vastly more efficient that signal transmission becomes in the future.
All right, Section 3, rewiring through real experience.
So this microscopic rewiring, it actually adds up to macroscopic, physical changes in the overall shape of the brain itself. And we see this across wildly different activities. Just look at the table here. Rats that are raised in enriched, complex environments actually grow thicker cerebral cortices. London taxi drivers who spend years memorizing crazy complex street maps physically enlarge their posterior hippocampi. Even adults who just spend 3 months learning how to juggle see a 3 to 4% increase in gray matter in their visual motion areas. I mean, practice literally physically remodels your brain. And check out these yellow highlighted areas on these MRI scans. These are scans from Vedic scholars, experts who spent a full decade doing super intensive oral memorization training. Those lit-up regions in the midbrain and thalamus show a massive increase in gray matter volume compared to a control group. Intensive, targeted brain training radically upgrades your brain's actual hardware.
Which brings us to Section 4, does brain training work? Now, seeing those physical changes is super exciting, but does simply downloading a brain training app on your phone actually do the trick? Well, scientists are definitely still debating the transferability of these games. Cognitive training is a workout for sure, but if you get really, really good at a specific puzzle app, does that make you better at everyday reasoning, or does it just make you a pro at that one specific game? The data shows that highly targeted clinical training, like exercises for auditory processing in schizophrenia patients, has huge promise. But your run-of-the-mill generalized puzzle apps, they often struggle to transfer those benefits over to broad, everyday thinking tasks.
However, what is absolutely not up for debate is the fact that we can protect our long-term cognitive health. Alzheimer's Research UK put out a stat saying a staggering 45% of global dementia cases are linked to modifiable risk factors. Just let that sink in for a second. Nearly half of the risk comes from everyday behaviors and choices that we can actually control. Our cognitive trajectory is very much in our own hands.
So, Section 5, Daily Habits for Brain Health.
How do we actually leverage all this amazing plasticity in our daily lives? Well, the gold standard for this is the 2015 finger trial. It proved that combining a few key lifestyle interventions gives you massive, lasting cognitive protection. We're talking about eating a fiber-rich Mediterranean diet and doing regular aerobic exercise, which, by the way, actually boosts neurogenesis, meaning you're growing new brain cells. Throw in some challenging cognitive training, and crucially, getting quality sleep, because sleep is when your brain literally takes out the trash, clearing built-up waste and locking in all the new memories you made that day.
Now, we do have to be realistic here. Take a look at this timeline. It is true that once we hit 40, our brains naturally start to lose about 5% of their mass every decade. That's just biology. But here is the absolute game changer. Scientists agree that if you adopt intentional, brain-healthy habits for literally just 5 to 15 minutes a day, you can completely offset that atrophy. You can practically hit the pause button on your brain's biological clock.
Oh, and if you want one super practical, immediate thing you can do right now to protect your cognitive energy, stop trying to juggle a million things at once. True multitasking? It's a complete myth. When you try to multitask, your brain is just frantically switching back and forth between tasks. It's an exhausting cognitive juggling act that totally tanks your efficiency, spikes your mental fatigue, and robs your brain of the deep focus it needs to actually build those strong neural pathways.
So we've clearly seen today that your brain is anything but fixed. It's this dynamic, living thing that's constantly reshaping itself based on what you do. Knowing that your brain is as completely unique as your fingerprint, with this massive, lifelong capacity for growth, my question for you is, what one new neural pathway are you going to build today? How are you going to challenge your mind? Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this explainer, and seriously, go out and learn something brand new right now.